Chapter 6, 171, Sealing Spring Autumn Cicada. Translator, Chibi General Editor, Chibi General. Half a month later, Fang Yuan went to Longye Blessed Land again. It was foggy in front of him. It was a scene of white among the turbulent cloud sea. 12 cloud buildings were motionless. Many large rivers resembling dragons were flowing above the cloud soil. After Tai Bai Yunsheng's restoration, Longya Blessed Land had returned to its former state. Fang Yuan was brought into a cloud building, meeting Longya Land Spirit. Longya Land Spirit still had layers of Chi Path seals, but there were originally 18 layers of seals under the Inkman King's help. 3 layers were removed, only 15 were left. Inkman King stood beside Longya Land Spirit. He did not dare to act arrogantly in front of Fang Yuan. He greeted first, "Sir Fang Yuan, how have you been?" Fang Yuan smiled at him. His protruding fangs made his smile look very scary. He turned to look at Longya Land Spirit, tossing a rank 4 East Window Goo towards him. "Look." East Window Goo was floating silently before Longya Land Spirit. Longya Land Spirit could not stretch out his arms, but Fang Yuan lent him the East Window Goo so his consciousness could enter it. After checking the contents, he nodded in satisfaction, praising, "Not bad, quite impressive. You completely deduced these 3 immortal goo recipes. Incredible. This thought process is spectacular. Land Spirit, I did not come here personally to listen to your rubbish." Fang Yuan interrupted Longya Land Spirit rudely, pointing out his intention. Longya Land Spirit was not stupid. He willed and summoned 30 immortal essence stones. "This is your remuneration." Fang Yuan took these immortal essence stones and placed it in his immortal aperture. His earnings this time was not as much as previously. That was because deducing these immortal goo recipes cost him 6 green grape immortal essence beads. If not for the Stargate, which was already built, he would have to waste another 2 green grape immortal essence beads, raising his cost to 8. Even though these immortal goo recipes were also remnant recipes with at least 90% completion rate, each of them needed in-depth analysis. Some immortal goo recipes were very hard to deduce. There were hurdles one after another. When he thought with his brain, he would expend more wills. But even so, the profits were still immense. Inkman King used an envious gaze and watched the two finish their transaction before smiling. "Sir Fang Yuan, actually, each transaction need not be done using immortal essence stones, right? Over here in Longya Blessed Land, there are lots of good stuff that cannot be found in Treasure Yellow Heaven. We can do trading. To speak the truth, my Inkman City has some precious goods that Sir might be interested in. Not long ago, your senior brother Tai Bai Yunsheng had bought a killer move from me." Inkman King saw that Fang Yuan had ample funds and wanted to do business with him. Fang Yuan heard this and smiled. "Inkman King's suggestion is great. I lack 3 small swamp goo and 6 Pine Island goo. I wonder if you have them." This problem stumped Inkman King. He showed an awkward expression. "I am ashamed. This is the first time I've heard of small swamp and Pine Island. These are all olden antiquity goo worms. Little swamp goo can change the terrain, forming a small swamp. Pine Island is the same. It can create a floating island on top of the sea. There is a huge tree in the middle of the island. The tree roots would extend and hold the soil together," Longya Land Spirit explained. Next, he asked Fang Yuan curiously, "These goo worms have all been eliminated from use right now. Goo immortals have better and cheaper ways to change the terrain of the Blessed Land. Why do you want these goo worms? You don't need to ask about my intention from your tone. I assume you have these goo worms in Longya Blessed Land?" Fang Yuan asked mysteriously. "Of course." Longya Land Spirit raised his head, saying arrogantly, "Every time I obtain a new goo recipe, I will refine a few goo worms to keep them as collection. I have up to 100 little swamp goo and Pine Island goo as collection. I can sell them to you. But the materials to refine these goo worms are now all extinct. You will need to pay an immortal essence stone. Goods were more expensive when they were rare. Little swamp goo and Pine Island goo were not even sold in Treasure Yellow Heaven." Fang Yuan had no hesitation. He tossed an immortal essence stone to Longya Land Spirit and obtained 3 little swamp goo and 6 pine island goo. Next, he looked at Lang Ya land spirit curiously. Strange, you collect so many goo worms. How do you settle the issue of feeding them? Fang Yin had been troubled these days over the feeding of goo worms, especially the immortal goo that he had. Lang Ya land spirit gave him the answer. The problem of feeding mortal goo is easy. Just create a special environment and let them hibernate. But you can't do this for immortal goo, even if they hibernate. You need to feed them, but the food that you feed them will be halved compared to normal times. This answer was a little disappointing to Fang Yun. Can you go into detail? He asked. I believe you have gone to 88 True Yang Buildings True Inheritance Secluded Domain, right? True Inheritance Secluded Domain is a special environment. It can cause goo worms to hibernate. Mortal goo will not need to be fed. Any mortal goo's feeding costs would be greatly reduced. Fang Yuan frowned. Even so, True Inheritance Secluded Domain has so many immortal goo. I do not believe that 88 True Young Building can obtain so much resources every 10 years to feed these immortal goo. That is because Giant Sun Immortal Venerable used food path methods. Food path is a very secretive path. It is solely for the research on how to feed goo worms, variant humans, wild beasts, and even humans these very tough questions. Don't ask me questions about food path. I have no idea. The immortal goo that I have area all fed in the most traditional way. Fang Yan did not give up. Back then, your main body and Giant Sun Immortal Venerable refined 88 True Yang Building together. Would you not know the food path methods that he used? Lang Yalan Spirit rolled his eyes. The main body had once made an oath with Giant Sun Immortal Venerable to not reveal any information regaining the food path methods. This is a huge secret, actually. I want to know about it too, but in the memories that I inherited, there is no such information. Fang Yan nodded. He knew that land spirits were upright and would never lie. He was only asking casually. Although he had completed the transaction, Fang Yuan did not leave yet. He had another objective in coming here. And he took out a starshoot goo, placing it before Lang Ya land spirit. Can you reverse refine the recipe of this goo? Lang Ya land spirit could not stretch out his hands. He could only sniff this starshoot goo, saying, this goo had obviously been tampered with. The goo recipe is very hard to recreate. At the very least, a refinement grandmaster is needed. With just this rank 3-star path goo, it is impossible to reverse refine its recipe. Because this is a new goo, it will need to be researched, and that would result in some costs. Fang Yuan smiled, stretching out his right palm, showing 5 fingers. I have over 5,000 starshoot goo. Starshoot goo was a necessary goo worm in formulating the killer move, Spring Star Rain. Fang Yuan tried using it once and found that the killer move was very effective. He had bought so many starshoot goo at once, he had the intention to reverse refine it. But right now, his intention was even stronger. 5,000. Of course I can reverse refine the recipe. What a pity. I am currently sealed. I can't do anything. Lang Yalan spirit sighed. Fang Yuan frowned. This chi path seal still has 15 layers. How long would it take to remove them all? At least a year, Inkman King said. So long? No choice. This seal is definitely an immortal killer move. The more it is unsealed, the more difficult it becomes. Inkman King showed a bitter laughter. Longhair Ancestor was one of the 3 supreme grandmasters in refinement path history. Their names were contained in legends. Lang Ya land spirit's current refinement path realm was at least refinement grandmaster level. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan was only a refinement path master. If he could get Lang Ya land spirit to help, that would be the best. But now that Lang Ya land spirit was sealed, he could not refine goo and would not be able to reverse refine the recipe. Actually, it is not impossible to reverse refine the recipe. Inkman King suggested. Lang Ya blessed land has many old hairy men, right? These old hairy men all have refinement master attainment. By then, let them work for the land spirit while Lang Ya land spirit directs them personally. Wouldn't that work? Lang Yalan spirit rolled his eyes at Inkman King. An outsider's silly words. Refinement path is profound and deep. Many methods and killer moves require the relevant wisdom, cultivation, and talent, as well as huge amounts of practice. Do you think that many refinement masters would add up to one refinement grandmaster? Bullshit. Inkman King was scolded till he was stunned, but he only laughed and did not dare to rebuke. In that case, forget it. When you are unsealed, we'll talk about it. Fang Yuan said his goodbye, turning around and leaving. This matter was not urgent at the moment. Lad, even if I am unsealed, I will not reverse refine it for you for free. Prepare 3 immortal essence stones, Lang Yalan's spirit shouted towards Fang Yuan, who was leaving. Fang Yuan did not turn around. He waved his hand as he stepped into the Stargate, vanishing. Oh, rascal kid. Lang Yalan's spirit watched him disappear as he muttered. After Fang Yuan returned to Hu Immortal Blessed Land, he entered Dong Hun Palace. Starting on the matter of sealing Spring-Autumn Cicada. He had already obtained small swamp goo and pine island goo. These were the final missing pieces. 7 days and 7 nights later, Fang Yuan planted large numbers of goo worms on his first aperture, as well as the area around his stomach. These goo worms' effects were interlinked. They amplified each other and formed a strong seal. On one hand, they helped the first aperture to alleviate Spring-Autumn Cicada's pressure. On the other hand, they expelled Spring-Autumn Cicada's partial aura towards the outside of his body after some modifications. Thirdly, and most importantly, the seal would not affect the activation of Spring-Autumn Cicada. This seal can last for 4 years. This way, I have resolved the problem of Spring-Autumn Cicada bursting the first aperture for the time being. Fang Yuan checked that there was no problem and sighed in relief. This tough problem was finally settled. He felt a pressure lifting off his shoulders. The process of sealing Spring-Autumn Cicada was not easy. After all, he was using mortal goo to seal an immortal goo. Fang Yuan's soul was so exhausted, it faded slightly. After succeeding in the sealing, Fang Yuan fell asleep, not wanting to get out of bed for 3 days.